Picture this. It's Tuesday night. You open your banking app, not because you're shopping, not because you're bored, but because you're bracing. You already know what you're going to see. The paycheck hit, the bills hit, the we're fine hit. And somehow, the number is back to how is it already gone? And here's the part that messes with your head. You're not broke. On paper, you're doing everything right. So why does it feel like you're one weird month away from chaos? Let me describe a couple, and tell me if you've seen them, or if you are them. She's in marketing, making around 62 grand. He's in IT, pulling in 71. Household income, $133,000. That's top quartile money. This should come with breathing room, retirement contributions, vacations that don't get paid off for the next 6 months, a savings account that doesn't feel like a decorative item. But instead, they're tense. They're tired. Every conversation becomes a math problem. Did we already pay the gas bill? Can we push the dentist to next month? Don't buy groceries at that store, it's too expensive. They've got maybe a couple months of expenses saved, if we're being generous, and we're not counting the money that's already mentally assigned to the next disaster. A car repair pops up, and it goes straight on a credit card, and both of them are working full-time, sometimes more than full-time. They're exhausted. They see each other in fragments. A few tired hours, quick dinners, weekend catch-up that turns into laundry and errands, and staring at the ceiling wondering why adulthood feels like a treadmill with the speed cranked up. The craziest part? They did the checklist. Degrees, careers, marriage, combined finances, house in a decent school district, responsible cars, health insurance, the whole modern American package. So why does it still feel like they're drowning? Why does a household making over 6 figures feel fragile? If you've ever looked at your combined income and thought, we make too much money to feel this broke, you're not imagining it. You're not bad with money, and you're definitely not alone. Hey, welcome back. I'm Ben. And if you like videos that break down money problems in a way that actually makes things click, do me a favor. Hit subscribe and tap the like button. It helps the channel a ton, and it tells YouTube to show this to more people who need it. Because we've been sold a story that sounds like basic math. 2 incomes are better than 1. One person making $50,000 can support a family, so 2 people making $50,000 should be able to support that same family and have an extra $50,000 left over, right? That's not even finance, that's addition. So why isn't the average dual-income household living like royalty compared to a single-income household from decades ago? Here's the uncomfortable answer. The second income didn't become extra. It became required. And that shift created one of the biggest financial bait-and-switches of modern life, the 2-income trap. It was popularized by Elizabeth Warren back when she was a Harvard bankruptcy professor studying families who went bust, long before she became a political figure that instantly makes half the comment section tense. She and her daughter looked at thousands of bankruptcy cases and found something that sounds backwards the first time you hear it. 2-income families weren't safer. They were more vulnerable, more likely to lose everything. And before you go, okay, Ben, this is going to be one of those society is broken videos. Hang with me, because the power is in seeing the mechanism. Once you understand how the trap works, you can stop building your life like a house of cards. So let's rewind. not to romanticize the past, but to understand how the structure changed. Back around 1970, the typical middle-class setup was one primary earner and one parent at home managing the household. And what people miss is that this wasn't just tradition. It was margin. That single income could often cover the basics. Housing didn't eat the entire paycheck. Public schools weren't as brutally tied to real estate prices in the way they are now. Childcare wasn't a line item because someone was home. And most importantly, the second adult in the household represented a backup plan. If the primary earner lost their job or got sick, the at-home parent could go earn income. Not ideal, not easy, but it existed. It was resilience. It was insurance. Now jump to today. Dual income households aren't the exception. They're the default. In many families, both parents work because it's the only way the machine runs. That backup lever? It's already pulled. Full-time. Permanently. And when the backup becomes the baseline, you don't have a backup anymore. That's where the trap gets nasty. The cost structure of middle-class life expanded to absorb both incomes. Housing got bid up. Childcare became mandatory for working parents. Healthcare and education got more expensive. The second income, the one that was supposed to be your wealth-building superpower, got quietly converted into the price of admission. Let's get painfully practical. Imagine a couple making $120,000 combined. One earns $70,000. The other earns $50,000. Everyone looks at that and thinks, nice, they're doing great. But isolate the second income and ask, what does it actually add after real life takes its cut? First, taxes. Not just income tax, but payroll taxes, state taxes, the whole buffet. And that second income often gets hit at a higher marginal rate because it stacks on top of the first. So that $50,000 might turn into $33,000 to $36,000 in take-home, depending on where you live and benefits. Okay, still solid. Now add childcare. And this is where people start getting quiet, because it's not a maybe. If you have young kids and both parents work, childcare isn't optional. Even one child can wipe out a huge chunk of that take-home pay. In many areas, full-time childcare costs as much as a second rent payment. Some families pay $1,200 a month. Some pay $2,000. Some pay more than their mortgage. Then commute costs. More gas, maintenance, parking, and often the need for a second reliable car. And it's not just the money, it's the time. And time turns into spending. Because when you're both exhausted, you start buying your time back in little ways. Takeout, delivery, convenience foods, services you used to do yourself, cleaning, lawn care, repairs, because you're tapped out. It's not laziness. It's survival when your household is running at 100% output capacity. So do the ugly math. Taxes, childcare, commuting, exhaustion spending. And the net benefit of that second income can shrink to a shockingly small number. Sometimes it's a few thousand a year. Sometimes it's break even. In some situations, it can even go negative, meaning one person is working 40+ hours a week, missing time with their kids, grinding through stress, and the household is netting the financial equivalent of a couple of streaming subscriptions. And here comes the psychological sucker punch. The gross number tricks you. You see $120,000 on paper, and you start making $120,000 decisions. You buy the house that $120,000 qualifies for. You take on car payments that $120,000 can technically handle. You commit to fixed costs, sized for 2 paychecks, and the bank encourages it. Congratulations, you qualify for this mortgage. But you didn't just buy a house. You bought a requirement. You bought a life that only works if both incomes keep flowing forever, without interruption. How many things do you actually control forever? Your health, your company's decisions, the economy, family emergencies. Life happens. This is where the trap snaps shut. The old single-income setup had a shock absorber. The modern dual-income setup often doesn't, because both incomes are fully committed to the monthly nut. If one income pauses, even temporarily, the system starts to fail. Not because the family is irresponsible, but because the costs were designed around full capacity. It's like running an engine redlined all the time. It works until it doesn't. And then everything breaks fast. Now zoom out. When 2-income households became normal, purchasing power increased. What happens to prices when everyone can pay more? They go up, especially housing. 2 incomes didn't leave you with extra money. The market adjusted and raised the cost of living to meet you there. And it's not just any housing, it's housing near jobs, in safe areas, and in good school districts. Because schools are tied to real estate, you don't just buy a home, you buy access. And when everyone tries to buy access, the price of access goes up. That's the bidding war nobody wants to talk about. The war for location, safety, and education. 2 incomes become the weapon, and everyone has to use it or fall behind. So now you're in an arms race. Sometimes it's not even lifestyle inflation. It's survival inflation. We need this district. We need to be near our jobs. We need childcare. We need reliable cars. These aren't yachts. These are baseline requirements to function. And once those costs expand, the second income stops being a bonus. It becomes duct tape. At this point, people ask, "Okay, Ben, what am I supposed to do? Just earn less? Quit? Move?" No, the problem isn't 2 incomes. The problem is building fixed costs as if 2 incomes are guaranteed forever. Here's the mindset shift. Stop treating the second income like it's required, even if right now you rely on it. Start designing your life like it's optional, structurally optional. I call it building a 1-income foundation. It's not a switch you flip overnight. It's a direction you build toward. You reduce the number of things in your life that demand 2 paychecks, because what you really want isn't just more money. You want flexibility, margin, options. So what does a 1-income foundation look like? Your non-negotiable monthly expenses, the stuff you can't cut fast, are sized so that if you had to, you could cover them with 1 income for a while. It means you don't buy the maximum house the bank says you can afford, because qualify and afford aren't the same word. It means you don't stack 2 car payments just because you can. It means you don't turn every raise into a lifestyle upgrade. And here's the key. You treat the second income like a weapon for building wealth, not a license for building obligations. So instead of disappearing into more house, more car, more everything, you aim it like a laser, emergency fund first, then high-interest debt, then retirement accounts, then investments. Every dollar you invest is buying back your freedom. Freedom is the real goal. The ability to step back, take a risk, survive a layoff, handle health issues, be present when life demands it. And when you build this way, you eventually get what you thought 2 incomes would give you. Actual security. There's a moment, after a few years of serious saving, where the panic fades. The emergency fund grows, debt shrinks, investments compound, and you realize we're not trapped. It's not glamorous at first. It can feel like you're living below your means while everyone else upgrades. You might drive older cars, live in a less trendy area, say no to upgrades you could technically afford. And you'll have to fight the voice that says, "But we make good money, we should be able to." That voice is the trap talking, because the trap's favorite tool is shame. So you have to choose. Are you buying status? Or are you buying resilience? The families who win aren't always the ones who earn the most. They're the ones who preserve flexibility, the ones who refuse to let fixed costs expand until both incomes are consumed. Let me leave you with a final reframe. The two-income trap isn't really about income. It's about options. Many modern families have higher incomes but fewer options because the margin is gone. We traded margin for bigger houses, longer commutes, and the illusion of being ahead. But cash flow isn't security, and two incomes aren't better than one if both are spent before they arrive. If you've been feeling like you're doing everything right and still falling behind, you're not crazy. You're seeing the trap. Start asking one question before every big decision. Does this expense require two incomes forever? If the answer is yes, treat it like dangerous. Not because you can't do it, but because it steals your freedom. Now you know what's happening. The question is, what you're going to do differently. If this helped you at all, do me a favor. Hit like, subscribe, and share this with a friend who's always saying, "We make good money. Why are we still stressed?" I'm Ben, and I'll see you in the next one.